Hi everyone! In this video I'll tell you about 5 tomato varieties that I liked both for their appearance and good flavor. They all are completely different and not alike, but that's why we love tomatoes. Each of these varieties is worth growing, so let's not waste a single minute and get to the review. Tomato Express is on its way. Take your seats, we're getting started. The tomato with which I will begin my story from the very first season became one of my favorites, because it's simply one of the best of the season. It was bred in Canada by Karen Olivier. It's also named after her dad, who was a dedicated cowboy. Cowboy. What a pleasure it has been for me to grow this variety. It's an incredible tomato and a true masterpiece in which everything is beautiful. Yes, not every review begins with such words, but this time I have no reason to keep the intrigue. The variety really has a lot of pluses and it's simply impossible not to notice them. Well, let's go into detail. After all, as cowboys say, if you climb the saddle, be ready for the ride. Let me start with the fact that the plants are sturdy and strongly foliated, with a leaf of the regular type. Indeterminate, but in my case were not too tall, and by midsummer, when growing in 2 stems, their height did not exceed 5 feet or 1.5 meters. The fruits are rounded, with a slight ribbing, very beautiful dark brick color. Karen herself describes their color as coppery red-brown. Although there were not many in a single bunch, they were all large enough to produce a good crop of tomatoes. They are also moderately dense and can hang on the vine for a long time without spoiling, which is rare for beefsteak tomatoes of this size. The weight of the first harvested tomatoes ranged from 12.5 ounces or 357 grams to 1 pound and 4 ounces or 556 grams. The flesh is juicy and very flavorful, deep red in color, and they also have a simply amazing raspberry flavor. A very beautiful, appetite-inducing tomato with classic flesh and wonderful taste. This is a real tomato. The flavor was already evident in the very first tomatoes picked and only improved thereafter. Fleshy, juicy, fragrant. In a word, a great tomato that you want to eat, which I regularly did. Besides everything else, tomatoes are well stored after picking. Cowboy is an excellent, if not to say the best addition to the collection of tomatoes by Canadian breeder Karen Olivier, and a variety that will definitely please you. Because now, when choosing a tomato with red flesh that I would like to repeat, Cowboy will obviously come to my mind among the first. And by hook or by crook, you just have to find the seeds of this variety. Also, this season I was pleased with a cherry tomato variety called Ivory Tears. It's also an indeterminate variety, and it, like most cherry tomatoes, was noted for its tremendous growth vigor. Above the first flower trusses I almost didn't prune it. The stems were very many, but despite this, the height of the plant was about 8 feet 2 inches or 2.5 meters. Tomatoes of light yellow color. In general, it was clear already from the name, elongated shape with a noticeable nipple and resembling small bottles or drops of water. The variety coped well with the heat and set fruit almost without skipping. The plants didn't require special care, were not susceptible to diseases. In fact, I caught myself thinking that I almost didn't take care of them except for harvesting. The size of Ivory Tears tomatoes is not big. They weighed about 1/3 of an ounce or 10 grams. Perhaps the fact that I almost did not remove the suckers influenced the not the most impressive weight. However, growing cherry tomatoes, I do not chase some crazy yield. For this, there are a lot of other varieties. This tomato direction exists just to enjoy the taste of tomatoes, which is usually brighter and more concentrated than in large fruited varieties. Inside, I found the flesh to be the same light yellow color, and more importantly, it is very sweet. When I say very, I mean very. I didn't notice any acidity at all, and I certainly liked the aroma. The fruit reminds me a bit of Barry's Crazy Cherry with its color, but in terms of taste, Ivory Tears wins in my personal opinion. After all, it comes from Belgium, and there they know how to breed delicious varieties. So if there are going to be tears in your garden, let it be Ivory Tears. Well, let's move on. And now I want to show you an interesting tricolor tomato called Erox Blush. This is a new tomato variety about which there is still very little information on the internet, so at the moment I have not been able to determine its origin, but I was able to grow it and now I will share my impressions. Let's start with the fact that I had only one plant and it grew in the most shaded corner of my greenhouse. Maybe for this reason its height by the middle of the season did not exceed 6 feet or 1.8 meters. The tomatoes are elongated, heart-shaped, medium-sized, predominantly green in color, with copper and pink shades beginning to appear at full ripeness. The average weight of tomatoes ranged from 7 to 9 ounces, or 200 to 250 grams, and for such a pretty tomato the size is quite decent. The green-pink flesh gave me hope for a good flavor, and looking ahead, I'll say that this hope was fully justified. Erox Blush turned out to be a very sweet and juicy tricolor, even despite the fact that during the season the plants didn't get too much sunlight. That is, it had absolutely no effect on the taste of the fruit. Excellent flavor, sweet, exotic, it's just perfect for salads. This season I had the chance to compare the taste of the Erox Blush tomato with one of my favorite green tricolors, namely Everett's Rusty Oxheart variety. But in the end, I was never able to determine which one was better. And of course, today we'll not forget to talk about dwarf tomatoes, hard-working varieties which have long been loved by many people and for good reason. And the first dwarf in today's review is a tomato called Andes 40. It was introduced by the Dwarf Tomato Project in 2018. The plants are strong and sturdy, with the same wrinkled foliage typical of dwarf tomatoes. I grew them in 2 and 4 stems, with the height of the plants not varying much and being in the neighborhood of 4 feet or 1.2 meters. Tomatoes are not large but very pretty. Round shape, dark red in color, with green stripes and a metallic tint. The tomatoes weighed around 3.5 ounces or 100 grams, and by the end of the season their size only increased. But the deciding factor for me why Andes 40 appeared in this review was of course its flavor. The flesh is dark burgundy and the flavor is… I don't know how to explain it. In short, these are very tasty tomatoes. The flavor is sweet with a bright acidity enveloping the taste buds. The very case when the beautiful appearance coincides with the rich inner content. The flavor of Andes 40 exceeded all my wildest expectations and therefore I can recommend this tomato to you without any doubt. As well as the next dwarf, which I also enjoyed. This one of the new varieties by the Dwarf Tomato Project called Choemato. It was introduced by Victory Seed Company in 2022. It's a bicolored tomato with yellow-pink colored fruits. The plants are beautiful, thanks in part to their wrinkled potato-type foliage, and their height by midsummer was about 2 feet 7 inches or 80 centimeters. The tomatoes are oblate-shaped, ribbed, and of decent size, while the stems are quite thin, especially by the standards of dwarf tomatoes. Thus, the plants devote much of their energy to producing the crop. I also liked the fact that Choemato sets only large fruits. Their weight started from 10.5 ounces or 300 grams and reached almost 14 ounces or 400 grams, which was noticeably above even the maximum declared 12 ounces or 340 grams. On the cut, tomatoes are amber yellow in color with pink shades, and the taste seemed to me very unusual. At first, there is a bright tomato acidity, which is very quickly replaced by a sense of sweetness. Quite an unexpected combination, but definitely enjoyable. I don't know what other tomato it can be compared to in terms of taste. Yes, I guess I don't need to. To my mind, Choemato is a flavorful and very juicy dwarf, and also with large fruits on not the tallest plants. To summarize, this is another gift for lovers of delicious and beautiful tomatoes from the Dwarf Tomato Project. And on this bicolor note, today's episode comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and of course, love tomatoes, grow tomatoes. This is the Lucky Garden channel and see you soon.